MPC, welcome sa ating weekly economic briefing. We have, of course, Assistant Secretary Tony Limbino to introduce our guests who will talk on the legislative status of tax reforms and plans for the remaining priority reforms. Asik.
Salamat po, magandang umaga sa lahat at welcome sa ating weekly economic press briefing co-hosted by the Economic Development Cluster and PCOO. Bahagi ng 0 to 10-point socio-economic agenda ng Duterte administration ang Comprehensive Tax Reform Program. Noong December 2017, naisabatas ang Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion Law o TRAIN Law na nagbigay dagdag kita sa 99% ng taxpayers sa pamamagitan ng pagpapababa ng personal income taxes. Sa Hulyo ng kasalukuyang taon ay naisabatas na rin ang Republic Act No. 11346 o ang pagtaas sa excise tax sa sigarilyo, kasama ang paunang tax rates sa e-cigarettes. Bukod pa rito, mayroon pang tax reform packages na isinusulong ang administrasyon. Ang Package 2 o ang Corporate Income Tax and Incentives Rationalization Act o CITIRA, ang Package 2 Plus o ang pagpapataw ng mas mataas na excise taxes sa alcohol at e-cigarettes, Package 3 o ang Real Property Valuation Reform, at ang Package 4 o ang Passive Income and Financial Intermediary Act o PIFITA. Naipasa na rin po ang Packages 2, 2 Plus at 4 sa third and final reading sa lower house. Dahil na rin sa napaka-epektibong pamumuno ni Congressman Joey Salceda, ang ating chairman ng Committee on Ways and Means. Makakatulong po ito sa ating Road to A credit rating at iba pa pong pagpapalago sa ating ekonomiya. Ngayong umaga ay makakasama natin ang kinatawan ng ikalawang distrito ng Albay at ang chair ng Committee on Ways and Means sa House of Representatives na si Congressman Joey Salceda, kasama si Finance Undersecretary Carl Chua upang magbigay ng ulat ukol sa ating Comprehensive Tax Reform Program at iba pang mga economic reforms. Congressman Salceda.
Good morning. Yung mga ngayong araw po, baka pumunta po ng floor yung Real Property Valuation and Assessment. Napirma na po yung committee report, nasa Committee on Rules. Yung fiscal regime for mining po, we're ongoing po. Nakailan na po kami extensive consultation. Although the bill has been filed, but before we take action, kasi inintay po ito na marami. Kasi under EO 79 ng previous administration, no new mining or no new permits are allowed until there's a fiscal regime. Pero we wanted to be fair to communities, fair to the future, and ensure that it will work because may credibility po yung framework. EO 79. The EO 79 essentially bans new mining, pati open pit, pati lahat. So under the ang requirement po niya is a fiscal regime, and a fiscal regime only comes from Congress. So, minimum po, gusto namin na ang interest po natin na at least makadagdag ng 1% to gross value added ang ato pong aming gagawin, minimum. So, yung motor vehicle users charge, the bill is filed today. It will result in 33% increase in all across lahat po ng vehicles. Walang pinagkaiba. Kung pinagbabayad ka ngayon ng 1,000, magiging 1,300. And over 3 years, 33% per year for 3 years. That essentially recovers the loss to inflation because if you count since 2004, there has been wala pong adjustments sa motor vehicle users charge. So isa naman to pong namin effort po on the part of the House to contribute to the funding gap of UHC. So definitely we're earmarking the incremental from the MBUC to, so sa 2020, 8.1 billion, sa 2021, 9.6 billion, Sa 2022, 11 billion, 2023, 26 billion, and 2024, 33 billion. So isa po to sa malaking pagkukunan para po mapandingan ang universal health. Dahil may relationship po ang pagbuga, ang air pollution, ang ating pong paggamit ng kotse. So for the 2020 budget, I'm sure will be approved by September 20, the earliest approved budget at the House in history. So it is, since nakuha namin po yun August 20, so matatapos po kami sa House September 20. So why September 20? Because we got it on August 20. This is in history for those of you who have covered Congress. This will be the earliest. We just want to prove that the Duterte super coalition in the House is working. And I hope the so-called Duterte super coalition of 20 in the Senate will do the same. So, anyway, so I'm here just to answer questions, and I don't know if Carl would like to add. Gusto mo pa magpakita mo kayo?
Maraming salamat po, Congressman Chairman Salceda. Yung idadagdag ko lang po, yung pagsasalamat po ng Department of Finance sa mahusay na pag-aruga at paglakad po ng aming tax reform program na malaking benefit po sa ating kinabukasan. Ngayon po ay sa Senado po kami na nakikinig po sa mga stakeholders. So sana po ay tuloy-tuloy na po yung ating tax reform. So kung may tanong po kayo, pwede ko pong masagot. Salamat po.
Papasalamat din po ako sa tiwala ng ating pong speaker. Maganda po ang samahan nilang apat. Kung isipin mo ang House, may apat po na talagang mga leaders. Si Speaker Cayetano, si Majority Leader Martin Romualdez, ang aming pong party head ng PDP, si Lord Alan Velasco, and of course sa PLC, Party List Coalition, nandun po si Mikey Romero. So ang ganda po ng teamwork namin, kaya ang bilis po actually ng legislative, hindi na po siya grind. It is Bicol Express.
Maraming
Yes.
salamat, Congressman Salceda and Yusek Chua. MPC question. Raymond.
Kay Congressman Salceda. Sir, so the 4.1 trillion pesos na 2020 proposed national budget was approved as is, right?
Challenge namin sa Senate. Sila ang reklamo nila last year. Proper branding nila na walang insertions.
So this
What you
time,
see is what you get. What we got is what we will give.
so from your end, you are confident there's no insertion or whatever diversion of budget allocation.
Except for a few words, not a single comma, decimal, semicolon is changed.
Okay, so you are more confident this time na what happened to the
I just
last
talked to the
years?
speaker in Ungab last night. Definitely there will. Dati po may tradition sa House na may tawag na small group. Ang small group po accumulates all the individual amendments. So ngayon wala po. There's not even a need for a small group. So on Friday, once we approve the bill on second reading, there will be no creation of a small group.
So you are more confident this time that what happened last year
Well,
is
I'm
squabble.
posing it as a challenge to the Senate. We don't have individual amendments. They shouldn't have institutional amendments.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Raymond. MPC. RJ.
Congressman, sir, the transition period for the CITIRA is 2 to 5 years, correct, sir?
532.
All right, sir. Sir, Senator Zubiri wants 5 to 7 years, and DTI wants 5 to 10 years. So, are you open to extending it?
Kasi may mga assumptions sila na hindi kinako-consider. Unang-una, wala naman nung maximum reapplication. Pag may performance ka, let me just CITIRA, no. The new menu, let's start with the new menu kasi. Under the new menu, pag outside NCR ka 10 years, Dati, yung kanilang formulation is 322. 5 years lang. Outside, adjacent to Manila, Bulacan, 7. Pag NCR, 5. So kung yung mga 5 to 7 nila, ang assumption nila na yung paglilipatan nila, in fact, if you you run the numbers, there's more reason for those in 2 to shift now to the new menu. Because number 2, based dun po sa statistics yung pwede pong mag-avail ng CITIRA, lahat po, 64% ng buong gross value added natin sa Pilipinas is eligible to register with CITIRA. And number 3, I asked the Department of Finance who will now manage the approvals. Nasabi ko kung sana may promo program tayo next 3 years, lahat approved. So para bang, if that assumes that there is some form of institutional resistance, pero if you have this kind, and the new one, by the time yung sinasabi na sinasabi kasi 5, 3, 2, ang assume hindi ka there's a switching provision under the House version. So ibig sabihin, you can an immediate switch to the new menu, especially if you're under 5 years. Kung 5 years ka, madali. The BPOs have run the numbers. It's positive for them actually. Contrary to their what we have as ideological resistance. It's not pragmatic, numbers-based, data-based resistance actually. If we've run the numbers. And I think even so I will stick to the 532 actually.
Thank you, sir.
Kasi hindi na basis for changing. We're trying to shift them. Ang signal ko po kasi tama na Metro Manila, pumunta na kayo sa Albay. Tama na Metro Manila, punta kayo ng Cebu. Tama na Metro Manila, punta kayo ng Baguio. Kasi in Baguio, 10 years. In Cebu, 10 years. Manila, 5 years lang. So baka ayaw nila mag-relocate. In fact, if you read the document very well, there is huge benefits to them if they relocate. So no need to change the 532. Kasi parang pinipilit na nga namin sila to shift to a better regulation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, RJ.
But let me answer because I have a press release on the other thing about the 5. That's what they said. They want the GIE. Based on our studies, the gross income earned is the mother of 297 billion transfer pricing anomalies. Kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, dalawa ang ating pong income tax framework. One is GIE for registered, gross income earned. Yung isa naman, yung binabayaran ng 1 million na korporasyon na mabayad sila ng 30% based on their corporate income tax. Sa GIE, 5% lang binabayad nila. So, ibig sabihin, marami doon, hindi naman pwedeng i-deduct. So, ano nangyari? There is a migration of expenditure, yung ginastos po ng mga registered firm, nililipat nila doon sa firms nila na subject doon sa 30%. So, magkano inaabot? Taon-taon, 64 billion. Over the past 5 years, 297 billion. Kaya, we cannot allow, it's difficult to imagine for reform na mangyari if you have this duality. Definitely, the gross income earned is the mother of all illicit transfer pricing with revenue losses of 296 billion. And they have done nothing to deserve it. Ang pangalawa, pag dilipat kami sa gross income earned, paano papasok yung mga performance indicators? Kasi based po doon sa CITIRA, pag nag-hire ka ng mas maraming workers, additional 50%. Pag trinain mo, additional 100% deduction. Pag ikaw po ay mag-invest sa training, 100%. Yan pong iba po dito sa mga cost na to are indirect costs and therefore they are not chargeable. So, hindi gagana po yung GIE pag yung performance indicators will not work a lot if we retain the gross income earned framework. So, we reject the GIE, at least the duality of a GIE compared. At saka on the ultimate analysis, if you run it, a 5% GIE is equal to 13.8% corporate income tax. By the end of the reduced corporate income tax, it's also 13, even better than their 7% GIE. I think they're arguing on the wrong tree. Mantaki mo, they're offering higher than what the government wants them to contribute to national prosperity. Because that 7% is equal to 16% versus our offer of 13% GIE. And if you strip out the 3%, which is in lieu of local taxes, kasi dun sa 13, 3 mapupunta, 1 for the province, 1 for the town, and 1 for the province, 1.5 for the province, and 1.5 for the host town. So it's not a well thought out argument against CITIRA.
But sir, that was the suggestion of PESA locators last year, sir, right? To increase
Because
it
they
to
haven't-
7%.
That's so ideological. Because why don't you just read the new menu, the new framework? Actually, I have a lot of friends in IT BPOs, even in voice. They're ahead if they use CITIRA. They're way ahead. Why? Because we are incentivizing hiring of Filipino labor. If you hire more, we give you more incentives. The current PESA law does not allow that. They look at labor merely as an afterthought. Ay, nagkataon, we created a labor. But we gave them incentives already. For what? Not, in other words here, for every 1 peso you put on labor, you get 150 more tax deduction on your 13% RCIT. Reduced, RCIT means reduced corporate. Ang corporate income tax ngayon is from 30 down to 20 by 2030. And definitely with the cooperation of the Senate, regalo na po natin to sa Pasko, sa Filipino people. By January 1, 2020, dapat magbabawas na po tayo ng 1% sa corporate income tax.
I'll ask again this, sir. This
Oh.
has been asked several times, but
Yes.
there's no way for PESA locators to be exempted.
Come again?
There's no way for PESA locators to be exempted from CITIRA.
So, it's against the basic rules of philosophy. It's what's good for the gander should be good for the goose. So, there is no circumstance or condition that makes them sui generis and therefore hindi kami maka-class action. This is meant for everyone. If you do this thing, whether you're PESA locator, AFAB locator, APEC locators, or you're in Baguio, you get the same menu. And you get the menu based on your performance. Bakit takot na takot sila sa performance? Alam mo, with this performance indicator, lahat ng incentive, wala kang incentive kung di ka mag-hire. Wala kang incentive kung hindi mo pagawa yung kalsada papunta sa factory mo. Wala kang incentive kung hindi ka bumili sa Albay. Because there is 50% more deduction if you buy domestically. That is not in the current menu. So, if you universalize it, sila lang ba ang, baka magdalawang isip sila na gusto nila dyan sa dati, pero mas maganda naman to. I've told you, this is our PESA registered BPOs. They run the numbers, they're ahead under CITIRA. Why? Because they're performing. They're hiring a lot of people. And I've asked the Makati Business Club to run the numbers. They're actually in support of this. So, ang suggestion ko po sa lahat, run the numbers and see whether your opposition is justified fundamentally. So they cannot be exempted. Will you exempt? Can you produce this chart? There? I'll show you 2 charts. The 1 minute lang. Itong dalawa lang.
Congressman, habang pinaprepare yung chart siguro, maybe we can entertain
Ito,
questions
chart.
from MPC.
Yes, question? Yes.
Follow up lang, sir. These locators threatened to leave the country, sir. So what's your stand on that?
Oh, once they read the law, they will stay. They will stay. They haven't read the law. Theirs is only ideological resistance to change. But it's always change for the better, for a more predictable. Kung if they're threat, how come some of them keep registering? I want to show you the chart. This is the total FDI. Where's PESA? There. This is total FDI. This is your PESA and this is your BOI. So, new Philippine investor do not need incentives. Not because they don't need incentives, because Philippines has more to offer. You know what? The willfulness of the top management of the Philippines is one of the best attraction we have actually. They see that the president really will finish the infrastructure, that there are improvements in the ease of doing business, in the predictability of policy. The best thing to do with CITIRA is approve it. Because some weakness in the FDI is merely due to the fact they want to wait to the final form. I think we're very close to the final form. No GIE, no forever, more performance-based incentives. And therefore, we are offering the business sector a better proposition than before. Gusto mo pa ng isa? Ito. Alam nyo ba na ibigay na incentives namin sa PESA? 5 trillion. 5.478 trillion. Yung incentives, if we compound it in inflation, is 14 trillion. Magkano lang yung na-invest sa kanila? 4 trillion. Nasaan ba to? You have this? Here. There. Akala ko labanan ng numero. They're supposed to be our ally. In fact, PESA will remain as an IPA, except that now they have to use menu for everyone. Noong 1995 kasi, the Philippines was in a catch-up position. We were reeling from all the negative images of the power crisis. Diba? Kaya we came up with this PESA as an offset. But now, what is there to offset? Power cost. Then we have to deal with that. But all I'm saying is, look at here. Ang ininvest sa PESA ay 5.5 trillion. Ang incentive sa PESA ay umabot ng 14.5 trillion. Ang investment umabot lang ng 8 trillion. So lugi ang gobyerno ng 6 trillion. Ang taong bayan. Akala ko man lang 1 for 1. For every investment, there should be So, I think we have to run the numbers. Let's run all the numbers, I'm telling you. In fact, sabi ng DOF, gusto nila the House I would have hosted. Kaso sabi ko, hindi na kailangan kasi yung House of Representatives naman, na-approve na namin to, gusto namin approvean ulit. Pero in-improve namin. Much improved. Tide, I joke. Nasa TV tayo, no?
Congressman, we have a question, follow-up question from Badet.
Congressman Salceda, the IT BPM industry expressed concern that they will find it harder to globally compete should CITIRA bill
When
be
was
passed.
that issued?
The article just came out a few days ago, sir.
A few weeks?
A few days ago.
A few days?
Yes,
But
sir.
I just met them when I met them? Last Monday. I met their president.
September 11 article, sir.
Okay, so that means, well, I think they have to run the numbers.
Okay, sir. But they are arguing that they will pay as high as 170% more in taxes. According to them, increasing the taxes will hike the cost of
I want to see their numbers.
doing IT BPM operations in
I
the country.
want to see their numbers.
Okay.
Let's run the numbers together in front of the Malacañang Press Club. Let's run the numbers.
But offhand, sir, do you think
They are better off. I told them, papaputol ko daliri ko kung may 1 piso na malugi sa inyo.
okay. Okay. Sir, in another question po.
That is an ideological resistance. That's because they haven't read the new law, the new bill passed by Congress. Are they using the old one? They also assume that they cannot switch immediately. They also assume that under the 532 they cannot reapply again.
Thank you, sir. Another question po. In computing for the structural adjustment fund, do we already have projections as to the number of
I don't even
displaced
think we need it.
worker?
I don't even think we need it.
The
That
structural
presupposes
adjustment fund.
jobs losses. That presupposes kalimutan ko pa nga, what you said, the threat will become, they will make good on their threat. And I don't think they will make good on their threat.
So parang protection lang to, sir, just in case.
Of
Pero,
course,
yeah.
galing ako Albay, we always follow the precautionary principles. The preemptive measures will always be there immediately. Once you need it, it's already there.
But sir, do we already have the numbers, sir, or projection man lang kung ilan ang madi-displace na workers po?
Of course na. No. Because may 5-year ka pa, hindi mo ubusin. May 5-year transition ka, hindi mo magagamitin ikaw, sir. So I will face that threat by 2025, ma'am. Di ba? By 2025 ko mamimit yung threat na yon. In the meantime, assuming na hindi ka pumasok sa new menu, 64% of the entire gross value added is eligible. Cement lang ang wala. Pero cement, kailangan talaga nila yan nandito kasi nandito sa atin yung mga deposits. Ano pang wala, Carl? Cement, ano pa?
Mostly domestic. More domestic.
Oh. So,
Chairman, can I
Yeah.
Pwede po magdagdag. Yung CITIRA po kasi, dalawa po yung components. Yung una, yung pagbaba ng corporate income tax from 30 to 20%. This is estimated to create 1.5 million jobs at least. Pangalawa po, pagbaba po natin ng corporate income tax, yung mga Filipino investment abroad na
Will come
pumunta
back.
doon dahil mas mababa yung tax rate, babalik. So, yan po ay dagdag na trabaho. Pangatlo po, mayroon po tayong multiplier effect na hindi pa natin pinasok. When you create one job, it has multiplier effects. On the other hand po, meron po tayong rationalization of fiscal incentives. 2 to 5 years yung transition and lahat po ng qualified industries pwede po mag-reapply. And the incentives we are giving is anywhere from 5 years to 19 years additional of incentives, or they can choose the additional deduction. For instance, for every job created, they can deduct 150%. So additional incentive po yan. So what we strongly believe is that there is no
Jobs.
threat of job destruction or loss. Yung mga nagsasabi po na aalis po sila, I challenge them, show me the names and the numbers. Until today po, wala pong nabibigay. And yung chart po sinabi na pinakita po ni Congressman Salceda clearly shows that the far majority of investors don't need incentives. Kasi kung yung FDI mo umabot na ng 10 billion last year, and yung PEZA and BOI incentives ay nasa mga 2 to 3 billion lang, that strongly suggests that the far majority of investors do not really need the incentives and they look forward to our investment in build, our ease of doing business law, our efforts to reduce power costs and labor costs with rice tarification as the primary reasons why they come. Now, yun sa BPO naman, inamin naman po nila from the very start that the reason why they are here is because we have the right talent that cannot be found in other countries. So incentives are the bonus. But how come po after 20 years of receiving incentives, meron pa rin tayong skills problem na mahirap po maghanap ng right labor? That's because the incentive did not motivate the right behavior to invest in the people, to train their people. Kaya po, meron po tayong mga additional deduction, for instance, sa training, double deduction sa research and development, para hindi lang po tayo assemble ng parts na dapat nakaakyat na po tayo sa value chain. So, yan po yung mga dahilan kung bakit sa tingin po namin yung investment incentives na binibigay natin ay mas maganda at makakatulong sa job creation.
Maraming salamat, Yusek Chua. Malacañang press corps question, shift tayo sa ibang topic.
It's okay.
Arian.
Hi sir, Arian Meres from ABS-CBN News. Kay Yusek Chua. Other matters na to, sir.
Other matters.
Sir, I'm sure na you're aware of the recent attacks on Saudi oil facilities. Sir, can you comment on its impact on our oil supply, and is the government looking into the possible suspension of fuel excise tax, or is that unlikely at the moment?
Well, yung latest na nabasa ko sa news today is yung supply bumalik na sa normal according to the news that I read today. So if that is the case, then wala po tayong impact sa ating oil supply and there's no further action needed. So we just have to monitor that the supply that are coming from the Middle East are indeed adequate.
Can I answer that? Because the law is clear. And let the work, pag mag-80 siya for 3 straight months, bababa namin, suspend namin. Pangalawa, bumalik na by kung saan po nanggaling yung spike due to the drone attack, it's back. In fact, back to the base. So, if there's one thing this administration will not be known for is knee-jerk reflex reactions.
Sir, follow-up lang po kay Yusek Chua pa rin. Yesterday or I think on Tuesday, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin said that yung attack daw po will affect the Philippines deeply. On your department side, sir,
Philippines what?
will affect the Philippines deeply.
Deeply.
Deeply, but he did not elaborate, sir. Sir, can you comment on meron po bang discussions within your department regarding this, or wala naman po?
Well, gaya po ng sinabi ko, we are monitoring it. Pero yung recent news that we got where Saudi Arabia said that the supply is normal already makes all the others moot na. So, again, we are monitoring this.
Okay po, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arian. Pia.
Kay Yusek Chua, Sir, sabi ni Energy Secretary Cusi na if oil prices reach $80 per barrel for 3 consecutive months, then we can suspend excise taxes. So that's allowed under current laws, right?
That is allowed under the law. Yung next increase ang masususpend. Hindi po bababa yung excise under the law.
Thank
So
you, sir.
there's one more increase in January 2020. But we are today 63 in I think $64 per barrel. So compared to the 80 that is required in the last 3 months, that is still a long way to go. And in fact, once na nag-normalize, as it is reported today, we're back to the 50s again, I believe, by the coming days.
Thank you, sir.
So, actually, ang panawagan dyan, yung mga oil companies, don't take advantage of the windfall. Because some of them are trying to price already their old inventories in the new one. I'm asking DOE. Kasi I also monitor the oil price every day, having been the principal author of Train 1. And that provision was placed there. If you look at it there, it's even lower where it came from. And if you read the law, there, it's very specific. The law is very clear on when do we suspend the incremental, makikita ba niya yan? Well, anyway, paano ko ba ipapadala sa inyo? Because definitely, kaya ang pakiusap ko lang po sa mga oil companies, don't exploit. Kasi I thought that the announcement of new price increases were a bit premature. Because they proved to me that they bought at those prices. I think they have to prove to the public that they bought oil at those prices. They're trying to price them again. They're taking advantage of this parang Philippine predisposition towards panic.
MPC, follow up on the same topic or
Mas gusto pa nila.
same topic. Ina, please.
Congressman Salceda, sir, just a quick follow-up on that. If proven, you're saying that oil companies should prove that they bought it at that price. If mapatunayan that they didn't, what could they be facing?
Well, that should be disgorged. There's a law on disgorgement. The disgorgement said you cannot profit. It's undue enrichment. May windfall tax ba tayo?
Thank you.
Because we don't have a windfall tax.
Salamat, Congressman. Shift tayo sa ibang topic. Other matters, RJ.
Ibalik nila ang ibig sabihin ng disgorgement.
Congressman, the president has repeatedly said that he wants gross income taxation. And as a lawmaker, sir, what's your take on that?
Pinag-aaralan ng DOF, but as my own personal position, it won't work kasi it's marami yung mga legitimate deduction kasi hindi na maano. So, you can have gross income tax kahit nga GIE nire-reject ko. Those as gross income earned less cost of goods sold basically. Yung it will penalize Jollibee because a lot of the expense of Jollibee is not deductible under gross income. For say 14% of the revenues of Jollibee are on advertising. So hindi sila mag-advertise sa ABS. So I think yung high margin, okay sila. Yung low margin, patay sila in a gross income taxation. Pero if we can come up with a form and kaso pag pinermutate mo siya, balik ka lang naman sa corporate income tax, the current one. It's working. Let's just make it better. Just put good people there. Or probably, let's explore, again, the National Revenue Authority. Pero ang problema naman sa National Revenue Authority is yung mga current employees, gusto nila ng security of tenure. So I think we just have to have a structural approach rather than shifting to gross income taxation because it's grossly inequitable actually.
So as you said, sir, you removed the GIE nga. How much more with gross? So you will not support it?
Po?
You will not support
Well,
it?
if with the genius of DOF can come out with a permutation that looks like, smells like, quacks like a CIT, then I'm willing to go for it. Let's just call it gross, but it works like CIT.
Yusek Chua, what's being done about the president's request?
Well, the Executive Secretary, DOJ, and the DBCC are currently studying it. But you should, I think, remember that in Train 1, we already introduced a version of that. For the small taxpayers whose gross sales is below 3 million, they have the option already to pay the 8% gross. So I think we are in that direction, but we need to study further what the President has advised. So that is where we are now.
But sir, what did the president really mean to say? Is it corporate, sir?
We are studying it now.
Sir, how did the president come up with that idea? Was he advised
I think the context, if you read his speech,
Yes.
is that there are alleged corruption. And so he felt that a gross system could be a better option. And that is what we are studying now.
Sir, same sentiment from the DOF?
They cannot speak.
All right.
Which one?
Thank you.
No, I already said this is something that is serious, so we will study it.
Okay, thank you.
MPC.
Yeah, just an addendum. To the CITIRA, we approved. We even removed the option of ODS for people above 1 billion ba?
Basta micro, small.
Kasi ngayon, pati malalaking korporasyon, ginagamit ang gross. Yung ODS, OSD, ano yan? Optional deduction system. 40%. Kasi wala sila pambayad sa lawyers. Walang pambayad sa abogado, sa accountants. So we removed it and limited it only to the SMEs as certified by the Department of Trade and Industry. So actually, that is semi gross income taxation. So may income ka, we will assume that 40% of it. Okay? The problem with that is some big corporation, almost with 1 trillion sales, gross sales, have availed of the OSD. They deducted 40% when the reality is they, based on their income accounts, they are supposed to deduct only 28%. So it was grossly disadvantageous to the national government. So we disallowed anybody above SMEs from using the OSD. It is based on statistics, based on data. Corporations with gross sales amounting to 1 trillion used the OSD and deducted 40% from their taxable income to come up with a taxable income. Their actual deductible was only 28%. So they appropriated 12% to their advantage and disadvantage of the Philippines, of the national government. So we even took out.
Sir, the president also said that he wants customs brokers removed from the BOC. So since, sir, this is under the DOF, can the president do that?
That one I have to consult with the BOC and my secretary.
Congressman Salceda, can the president do that?
Hanggang policy lang ako eh.
Sir, this is policy. Yeah.
Policy ba yun? I think it's more like administration, tax administration.
But there's a law, sir, right, that protects them. I forgot what it is.
Then we will change the
The
law.
Customs Brokers
We will,
Act.
the Committee on Ways and Means, I have my ComSec here. She takes down everything that will be suggested here. And we will study whether we have to change the law in order to provide reasonable restrictions on customs brokers in dealing with. We will just study. We will study.
All right.
Is there a law?
Customs Brokers Act of 2004.
Oh yeah, there's a customs law nga pala.
So,
We will study amending that law to ensure that the dysfunctional activities of some segments of the custom brokerage without undermining the legitimate customs brokers.
thank you, sir.
Salamat, RJ. Ina?
Just safe
question.
answer.
For Yusek Chua, this is on a different matter. A few days ago, Secretary Dominguez talked about shutting down POGO operations that still refuse to settle the tax liabilities of their workers despite the issuance of notices a while back. How serious was the Secretary about this? Are we looking at closing down POGO operations any day now, or how soon?
I think yung idea ni Secretary is first fairness. We ask Filipino companies and the Filipino workers to pay the right taxes. And I think regardless of the investor or the workers, I think everyone should follow. And we are doing this in a broad-based manner. We are lowering the tax rates for everyone, but we have to broaden the base and ensure everyone complies and we make it easier for them to comply. So I think it will be unfair if we are not serious to make the law apply to everyone.
So how soon are we giving them a strict deadline, sir?
Are we giving them a deadline? As soon as possible.
Otherwise, kailan, I mean, next week magsasaraduhan
They
na
will
ba?
be padlocked because we have an existing administrative regulation called Oplan Candado. If you refuse to pay your proven liabilities repeatedly, then we will apply the Oplan Candado fairly to anyone who doesn't comply.
Okay. ASAP yun, sir, ah. ASAP yun.
Yes.
Thank you, Ina.
As far as the Committee on Ways and Means, we have been quietly studying the POGO for systemic risk because how do you call China now? Our frenemy. That's the only word that everybody understood during his speech during the visit of the president, POGO. But it's now almost 1% of GDP. Half of the sale of office space went to them. Last year, I think the Manila was the single biggest seller of office condominium in the whole world with 1.1 million. Half of them went to POGO. 1.1 million. And then they have most, I don't know whether correct, 440,000 workers. 10% of which are Chinese nationals, mostly single, young, millennial, and therefore they spend everything here. They are earning more now than BPOs. 9.5 billion, 9 billion versus. Kaya yun ang take namin. Noong 2017, nagbayad lang mga to 175 million, nag-remit lang ng 175 million in wages, wage tax. Last year, nagbayad sila 576. This year, as of August, 1.5 billion. Sinisingil natin sila ng 22 billion. So how does it play? One, wala pa siya. Sabi sa akin ni Dennis Mapa, sabi ko, inask ko siya na to put POGO in the S of the AIS, Agriculture, Industries, Services, para ma-monitor na natin yung risk from POGO. Kasi right now, kina-capture lang yung POGO through their purchases sa Mega Mall, nagsa-shopping, nagiinom sa Makati Avenue. So, meron siyang direct, Pagdating naman po sa BOP accounts ng BSP, I've requested Central Bank BSP Governor Jokno na mag-separate accounts sa service exports ang POGO para ma-monitor talaga natin yung systemic risk. Remember, this is legal in the Philippines but considered illegal in China. So we need to see what is the correct strategy with dealing with them rather outside of taxing them properly, because they definitely will pose systemic risk. They are adding now, I don't know, kasi 2006, yung BPO, hindi ko kinoconsider ng NSCB. Ngayon, simula 2007, kinonsider nila, pumutok ang GDP growth natin to as high as 8.9%. Ang POGO ngayon, kina-capture lang through its consequences. But as an industry, it's not there in the national income account. So pag ipinasok mo yan, baka maganda sa GDP, tumaas naman ang risk natin. So wag na lang. Hindi pa siya nagbabayad ng buwis. So we're studying it from that point of view. A more holistic assessment of the role of POGO in the Philippine economy.
Sir, just a brief simplified explanation dun sa
Bakit?
sinasabi ninyong systemic risk.
Kung dahil dyan, awayin tayo ng China.
If we insist on yung
Well, they already made a president-to-president request to control POGO. Di ba? Pero sa atin naman, magiging sa atin, ang pinaka-risk dyan, pag biglang tumigil yan, magkakaroon tayo ng glut, lalong-lalo na sa mga office and residential condominium na nagbayad lang ng 12 months advance the following year, wala na magti-take up nung 440,000 ang workers niyan. So as presumably, 10 yan, di ba? O divided by 2 times 10 square meters. So more or less, mababakante mga 1 million square meters of residential space plus residential office space.
So medyo worry kayo, sir, about aggressively pushing that they settle it now.
For GDP, yes. But for risk, no. I mean, so we need to come up with a more balance. So that's why Carl is here. He will take care of that. So, of the total economic valuation of POGO.
Thank you, sir.
Just, we are using the same nga pala for mining, just to give you about how the mining regime will look like. We will consider MGB as an IPA, very much like PESA. We will put up an FIRB there, called MICC. So, and then we will conduct cost benefits analysis on each project, and therefore total economic valuation, including environmental risk. And yung isa pa po, all tenements will be auctioned. Right now, it's first come, first served basis. To put the highest possible degree of, how do you call that, institutional trust in the process. Kasi ngayon, pinamimigay lang ng MGB. Pag mag-apply ka, makukuha mo, wala ka man binayad. Kasi wala ka daw binabayad kasi baka wala ka naman makuwang ginto. So, ang point ngayon, risk mo yan. So, it will be, and apparently, ang magiging basis for auction is how much tax will you pay government if you find one. So, but we will set a minimum, basically.
Thank you, Ina. Joseph, follow up on POGO. Okay.
GMA
Nestor,
pa to.
POGO muna tayo. Hindi. Si Joseph muna. POGO
Sir, good
muna.
morning. Good afternoon. Sir, clarification lang. 22 billion yung utang ng POGO sa income
Yan
taxes,
ang
right?
tax assessment natin.
21.6.
21.6. Yung pong one,
Inexacto talaga.
well, they're finance people, so they're like exact.
600 million din.
So 21.6 yung utang
Makuripot,
nila.
400 million. Talaga, siningil pa ako.
Alright, so pero yung 1.5, sir, yun lang yung sinabi nilang
Last year.
Declare-
Right, this year?
as of August yung nababayaran. Alright. Sir, meron pong request yung for both, no? What do you think of the proposal, suggestion, or yung man utos siguro, suggestion ng China to ban yung mga POGO altogether? They want it banned, but of course, sasabi ni Presidente, meron naman tayong economic benefits. So, if we're going to ban it, how? And if it's, can we do away with POGO? Sir?
That's why we wanted to first. We are trying to assess it, and then we will conduct a committee hearing, probably jointly with the others committee. This is not for one mind to crack. I'm telling you, it has returns. It's high risk, high return for the Philippines as an economy. What is the risk? Are you willing to take it if 1 million square meters of condominium are suddenly empty? Suddenly empty, and you did not prepare for it. Ngayon, hindi, mas marami pa sila mamili ng kondo kaysa mga BPOs. So, high return sila, high return, high risk, high return po sila. So, what is the appropriate policy? Enjoy it while it lasts? Ang policy ba? Yung tipong ganyan? MU? Yeah, MU yan. Hanggang MU lang po ang POGO sa tingin ko because of the stated policy of China. Hanggang MU lang yan. Enjoy while it lasts and prepare when they go.
But they want it
Who?
banned. China.
Huh?
Huh?
But in the Philippine Charter, it is legal. Under the franchise of PACOR. If you read their franchise, their RA, I forgot their RA. Oh, they can do those things. So as a sovereign nation, vis-a-vis another frenemy nation, then I think we will come out with, I think, so, come again? I don't think there's a compromise there eh. Kasi nasa TV tayo, no? Kasi China is bleeding of dollars. So something like 700 billion renminbi, but that's from analyst, not from the DOF. I'm talking now here as an analyst, no? 700 billion ang lumalabas sa China. You know how much that is? That's huge. Magkano ba ang $100 billion, no? Ang capital outflows ng China. So they're trying to stave it off.
Mr.
So
Diwas.
POGO is one of the channels for the outflows.
Sa DOF side, sir, can we do away with POGO or do we want the Chinese money?
Okay, next, CITIRA na lang.
Sino ba nag-introduce ng POGO? Meron sa inyo nag-introduce eh. Ikaw, di ba?
Topic.
So next time nga, wala nang others.
Salamat, Joseph. MPC, mag-last question na tayo. Okay.
Hindi, okay lang.
Sige, follow up muna doon
Hindi
sa
na ako
POGO,
babalik
RJ.
dito. Marami palang tanong dito.
RJ.
Sir,
Let's start off
the committee hearing on POGO, when is that?
After we completed our analysis of literature and conduct, kasi we want a hearing naman that is, from a taxing point of view kasi yun eh.
Your committee, sir.
Committee on Ways and Means, yes.
Okay.
But we do a lot of, like the mining, we're conducting a lot of preliminary dialogues already with stakeholders. So they would know what to expect, and we know what they want also. So it is a conscious and conscientious, how do you call that, dialogue with all the stakeholders. I think we will come up a very good mining, fiscal regime for mining.
And the goal, sir, again, the goal is to find
1% of GDP.
on POGO, sir.
POGO?
The goal is to find out whether we have to
What
ban
risk do they
POGO.
pose? Because we know the returns.
Okay.
We want to quantify. That's why I'm asking, I repeat my request to Dennis Mapa to recognize POGO for what it is, that there should be a POGO in the S of the AIS, that is in the supply side. And for the BSP to identify in service exports, split yung POGO versus OFW remittances and other dividend income from abroad. Kasi nandun po yan sa service exports na. Current service export bang tawag nun? Current service exports. So para malaman naman natin kung talagang we need to quantify it. And then we will make. But in terms of returns, my goodness, it's now breaching 1% of GDP. So it's paying more wages than BPOs. So you can just imagine what kind of, in only 3 years.
Thank you, Congressman Salcedal. Okay.
Si
Sa
do you
POGO,
tax
POGO
the
ba?
risk?
POGO, Bernadette. Unahin muna natin si Nestor. Nestor, please.
Congressman, good
The
morning.
risk.
Sir, you mentioned earlier that the fast approval of the 2020 national budget is a proof that the Duterte coalition
It's working.
is working.
Working very well.
Yes, sir. What is the assurance? What is the House assurance to the public that the budget is not being
We cannot do that. If we insert one, you have to insert all. Di ba? Pag may nakita nila may nag-insert ng isa, lahat yan magsusubok, hindi yan ma-approve. As I've told you, on Friday, ang inalaw lang yata ni Speaker, I was extremist naman yung pagkasabi ko, tatlo lang ata ang bilalagay doon, institutional amendment pa, para sa education, sa health, at saka sa mga kampo. Yun. Trust me, only 3. And they're not like billions, I think, to develop Camp Aguinaldo, some other camps, and support to, kasi yung classroom binagsak from 67,000 binaba to 8,000. Hindi na namin ginagawa trabaho namin. But the rest, they're all the same. So I said, except for these 3, same comma, same semicolon, same capital T.
Sir, ang naging issue kasi last year was the questionable allocations and pork barrel insertion.
We faced that this year.
Anong
face to
assurance,
PC.
sir, na with the fast approval of the budget is it was being well scrutinized by the lower house?
Well, ang gusto namin submit ng 20, pag nakafocus ka kasi sa isang target, the rest becomes once you have once you set a goal, the rest follows. So there was this issue of 75 billion stripped out from some districts. If we allow that to come back, then all the other districts will ask for the same. So you ask that matter in the 2021 budget, not in the 2020 budget. That is the solution actually.
So walang pork, sir?
Po,
Walang pork.
as you know it, as defined by the Supreme Court, there's none.
Okay.
Follow up, Joseph.
Sir, are there allocations per congressman?
Of course, there are allocation for my constituents.
So, okay.
Who determined it?
Yes.
The executive.
Executive. Pinakiusap nyo na lang sa DPWH na
Well, you
ipasa.
can say that, but at the same time, they have their own rules. And remember, there is creative tension among the executive agencies, DBM, DOF, what the DOF will allow the DBM, what the DBM will allow DPWH, what the other departments would also like to use in the national resources.
How much is yours, sir?
I don't know.
Why don't you know?
I didn't look talaga.
But if it's a proposal
Well,
for your constituents, you should probably
I
know. How much.
focused. How can you deliver on all these bills of Carl?
No. Because the Supreme Court, do you have allocations like lump sum allocations for
Well, no.
congressmen?
None.
Okay.
Naka-itemize naman eh.
Itemized all. Pero hindi siya, sir, parang hindi naman tig 75 to go 100.
75, 100. Yung ang alam ko po dyan, to ensure na everybody has some minimum, 100, yes.
100 each for congressmen.
But that's basically 70 million ng infrastructure and they were itemized in the NEP.
So that's
Well, there's no such thing as non-itemized expenditure there.
so
Every-
70 hard projects, 30 soft.
Yes. I do call it soft. I mean, but
Ito yung mga medical assistance, right?
yes,
Ito yung
of
mga
course. Yes.
this
Yes.
reads and this sounds, this quacks and acts like the pork. Hindi ba?
To you?
Well, 70-30 ang ginawa nyo lang is hindi siya lump sum pero tigwa 100 din kayo.
It also smells, acts, quacks like a need of my constituents.
Okay. So it's not pork, you say?
And it also smells, quacks, and acts as if it's allowed by the Supreme Court.
All right, cool.
Okay. MPC, mag-last na tayo. Okay. Badet, last question, Joyce. Badet, please.
Congressman Salceda,
Yes.
follow up lang po sa question ko kanina, sir. You said that the structural adjustment fund is not needed and Yusek Chua said that there will be no job losses. So why did we appropriate about 500 million in cash
Precautionary
grants
principle?
for displaced workers? Sorry, sir?
Precautionary principle.
Precautionary principle. So that principle is applied to every measure
Almost
that we-
every measure in Congress, parang dinadaan po sa DDR like of analysis, risk analysis. Because risk analysis is not the monopoly of the private sector.
Okay.
There are enough tools to ensure that risk-adjusted po ang mga legislation ng Congress.
But at present, we are sure that there will be no job losses.
Kung may job losses in one sector, it will be compensated by a jobs creation in another sector, yes. But 5 years, will anybody drop his business if you have 5 more years? Assuming you don't like the Philippines because of CITIRA, that suddenly all Filipinos are not English speaking, that suddenly Filipinos have a different accent that is not neutral. All of a sudden, the Philippines just dropped dead. So, may 5 years, it is safe to assume that most of them will stay and consume their sunset provision. And it is also safe to assume that many of them will use that switching provision to the new menu, even during the sunset. And it is even more likely that they will use the new, it makes more sense financially for them to go into the new menu as provided for by the CITIRA.
Last na lang, sir, yung 1.5 million jobs na that will be
1.566 million jobs.
Yes, na that will be generated
And let
under
me correct Carl also.
under CITIRA. Kailan po natin makikita, sir, yung 1.5 plus
Actually,
million
ma'am,
jobs
in
na
the first 3 years, mga 500 million.
first years?
500,000, sorry.
500,000.
500,000.
So parang can we-
512,036.
every year yun, sir? Every year,
No, by the third year, before the president goes.
sir? By the third year?
2021, 21, 22, yes.
Okay, 500,000.
And the incremental GDP on the first year is 1.1. And every year thereafter, on the average, 3.6% incremental GDP growth rate per year. That is the DSGE analysis of CITIRA. It affects almost every single sector of this economy. It affects imports, exports, domestic manufacturing, domestic industries, 1 million corporation, 3,100 registered business enterprises. In terms, by lowering corporate income tax from 30 to 20 and preserving our competitiveness, by rationalizing incentive and making it based on performance. Actually, after this, hindi na kami pwede magreklamo na unnecessary incentives. Alam mo bakit? Lahat ng incentives based sa performance eh. Nag-produce ka one job, you deserve some incentive. Pero, I mean, that is a good way of looking at CITIRA, actually. That is the best, actually. That is the way to view CITIRA.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Maraming salamat, Badet. Last question from Joyce, bago natin batiin ang happy birthday si Asek Lambino. Joyce.
Sec Chua. Sir, good afternoon. Yesterday, the President mentioned that the government will push through with the 1 million peso bounty for each prisoner who will not surrender within the President's deadline. Is this feasible? Because, sir, it will amount to more than 1 billion. Where are we supposed to get the budget for this?
I'm not sure how to answer that because I am the person looking at the tax reform. So I will check with the appropriate person.
Ito si Joseph.
Kay
hindi naman ako
Representative
dun eh.
Salceda, sir, do we have a space in the 2020 budget for that?
Yes, definitely.
The
They
1
have
billion.
It can be addressed to Department Errata.
Paano
Yeah.
yun, sir? Can you go?
At any point during the budgetary process, the executive may propose amendments.
So,
For as long as one congressman proposes it.
so it's still possible to include that in the
Yes.
2020 national
Definitely,
budget?
definitely. 2020 budget.
Will the Department of Finance propose amendments to the budget, sir?
No, it's not their job. It will be DBM.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes. Sige.
Pahabol kayo, Joseph. Follow up.
Sir, if gusto talaga ni PRD yun, you will require 1 billion more of money. Can we finance it?
Well, it is the President's budget, and the President will, through the proper process, make the proposal, and we have a 4.1 trillion budget. So compare the 1 billion with the 4.1. I think there is space. So this is something that has to go through the budget approval process.
So, pwede niyang bigyan ng pondo yan.
Kinaya nga namin po magbigay ng 110 billion to teachers over 3 years without imposing new taxes. So it will be on mere organic capacity of the state to generate revenues.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And MPC, with that, we would like to say happy birthday muna kay Assistant Secretary Tony Lambino.
I hate pork issues. I don't know how to answer.
Maraming salamat, Congressman Salceda, Undersecretary Chua, and the birthday boy, Assistant Secretary Lambino. Back tayo sa Radyo Pilipinas and PTV4.
Yeah.